One. All right, everyone. Good morning and happy Wednesday, the 26th of February, also known as the day of NVIDIA earnings, which shall not be a dull one. So at the moment, we got a little pop here in the futures. You got the QQQ up 0.7. What else we got? Amazon's up about 1%. Meta's up 0.8. SMH up 1.5. Google up 0.7. Broadcom up 2.5. NVIDIA up 2.5. And a tiny pop there in Tesla. So looking at the indexes into NVIDIA earnings, for now at least, they do a good job of holding key support yesterday. And for the QQQ, I think you mark up that weekly 21 EMA. Now, here's the thing. We're getting a decent bounce this morning. I don't think a bounce that will fix the 15-minute, 30-minute, 1-hour time frames. So bulls have got a lot of things they got to clean up. But when you're looking at the weekly chart, I still think if they can keep it above the 21 EMA, then it's a weekly squeeze with good trending, good structure at the buy zone. If they keep on giving that a grade of 13 points out of 15, again, they got to clean up some issues first. Then it can make for a good buy signal. But I want to be a little bit careful about shorting right above that weekly 21. So for tomorrow, when NVIDIA comes out with earnings, they're gapping up. QQQ pops off that weekly 21. You're getting some 15-minute buy signals, 30-minute buy signals. Then I think you come in here off the back of that weekly squeeze, you're looking for a long. We wake up tomorrow and NVIDIA's down 5, 10, 15%. Then I'd imagine a decent chance QQQ is breaking below the weekly 21. And then I do think in the short term, that could open the door for a bit more downside. But yeah, keep that level in mind to mark it up. And yeah, if anything, just be a little bit careful about getting heavily short on top of that level, which can be tough if you're looking at, say, a 1-hour QQQ. Then yeah, that thing's pretty bearish. You're below the 50, below the 200. You've got a sell signal and a negative 11. They go breaking that 5, 10-ish weekly 21. Then the sell signals can take price lower. I would like to buy it above that weekly 21, but with a much better looking hourly. So QQQ bulls got some work to do here. If we jump to the S&Ps, do I like the current 1-hour time frame for a buy trigger? Not at all, really. You break your 200, 21 under the 50, a sell signal, and a negative 11. Really can't think about buying the S&Ps until they fix that problem. But above that weekly 21, around 5,900, I don't think a great spot to get short. Maybe they pop it back into, say, 6,000 SPX. They fail, get rejected. That can make for a better short. Short the pop, not the dead low. And you're weekly on the S&Ps. I still think for now, really far from bearish. Trend is bullish, structure is bullish. All right, momentum is bearish, but you're getting 13 points out of 15. So if I can take that weekly squeeze and then anywhere above 5,900, 5,925-ish, S&Ps are cranking out 15-minute buy signals, 30-minute hourly. Then I think it come in, and it could be the eventual push towards that 6,200 call wall. So really important level there at that weekly 21 EMA. But then looking at the big man of the hour itself here, NVIDIA. Now, no right or wrong answer, of course, but let me know here in the chat. If you were a betting man or a betting gal, you think higher or lower tomorrow for NVIDIA? What is the group consensus here? We bullish, bearish, neutral? I'm a little bit more unopinionated. My major thing here for NVIDIA is you have that gap down on the DeepSeek news. They pop it, little bit of we'll call it stabilization, shall we? And now you go into your catalyst with a weekly squeeze, a 3-day squeeze, and a 2-day squeeze. Right, so without thinking about a gap up tomorrow, gap down tomorrow, we're going into the catalyst with a lot of energy being built up, which I think eventually is going to be NVIDIA either down to $100 as a weekly squeeze breaks short, or it could be NVIDIA up into $1.65, $1.70 as the squeeze fires long. In that regard, earnings could be pretty important here. For conversation's sake, they're gapping it into 145, 150 tomorrow. Well, I don't think you wake up and your weekly squeeze is fired, but it's a good nudge in the right direction. We wake up and you got Nvidia down 105, 100. Different outlook on that big weekly squeeze. Shall not be a dull one. And then I think, looking at the SMH here, it's a little bit like Nvidia into earnings with a weekly squeeze, a 3-day squeeze. Bigger picture down the road, that could be a path into 200-ish or a path into 300-ish. A lot of that will have to do with Nvidia here. So get your popcorn ready for that, and then let's jump over to the pretty spreadsheet here, or maybe the not so pretty spreadsheet. QQQ gets a negative 16 out of 120. All right, so your kid comes home from school with his report card, and he's got we'll call that like a C minus. All right, not the worst you've seen, but yeah, a lot of room for improvement there. S&P's got a negative 12, Dow Jones with a mind-blowing 1 out of 120, and then the rougher index would be the small caps with a negative 71. All right, so take the best possible score combined for the indexes. Right now we have we're at negative 15% of max strength. Right, meaning RSP gets a 120, Dow Jones gets a 120, QQQ, S&P is all the above. So negative 15 is not, hey, I'm waking up, I'm blindfolding myself, and I'm buying a bunch of out-the-money calls. But it's also, and again, especially above the weekly 21 EMA, it's not a negative 70%, 80%, 90%. I'm not too quick to wake up, blindfold myself and buy puts either. Yeah, short term leans a little bit more on the sell side, but overall just pretty neutral. Could change after Nvidia. And then down here for the Big 10 names, you have Microsoft with very poor behavior, a negative 91. Tesla's negative 53, TSM, Google, Nvidia, Broadcom, Amazon. They all get negative scores. Meta and Netflix are very neutral. And, you got to give Apple a lot of credit here. Apple is your top holding in the QQQ. And if anything, it's been the inverse of the QQQ as of late. QQQ fails the breakout, pulls back for a few days, getting a little bit lively. And then the Big Apple over here says, I've got no time for a multi-day pullback. So in terms of, all right, what are a few names in that group I might want to buy if I get a better S&P QQQ behind it? I mean, I'm not one to try to jump in there and call for a bottom. So when I look at a name like Microsoft, for example, right, the weakest name on the Big Ten. Yeah, sure. If QQQ's at a brand new all-time high next week, I think you're catching a good bid here in Microsoft. But it's also far from a bullish chart. Same could be said about Tesla in the short term. Negative 5. Amazon rocking a negative 5 for Amazon. The big Google has a negative 7. Meta not too bad here. Would like it a little more back above that 21. What about Netflix? Yeah, Netflix not too bad either. But yeah, I think until things change, Apple is a bit of a standout here. So a couple levels into maybe a bit more of an outlook for into next week. Mark up that 250. That'll be your initial battleground here. And the high a day from yesterday was 250 to the penny. So looking at Apple here on the 1 hour and the 30-minute, they got this really, I won't call it drawn out, but it's a pretty big hourly squeeze that begins back on the 19th of February. And now, granted, Apple's been your strongest name in the QQQ. Right? Slowly grinds higher, holds up pretty good. But I think the move you're trying to call for in the short term from Apple will be the move and break out above 250, and then a path maybe into the 255 call wall. For those of you who follow Spot Gamma, you had the 250 call wall for about a week and change. And then interestingly enough, yesterday's open, that call wall pops into 255-ish. In terms of signals, though, for another $5 or $10 pop, looking at that 1 hour squeeze, we have really good trend. So we're in an hourly uptrend. We've got good structure, stacked EMAs, 21 above the 50. So we got a good foundation to it. The one thing we're lacking since the squeeze starts back here is momentum. They can't quite get that histogram to shift back above zero. And if they can't do that, not too sure you're getting the break above and the push into 255. QQQ wakes up a bit, begins to rebound, does all those things, and then you're getting that momentum kick on Apple. I think it's through 250 and makes for a good push. So keeping it nice and simple, it'd be a buy on either a 1 hour or a 30-minute buy signal. And you can see a little bit of the same here on that 30-minute squeeze. Momentum crosses bearish back on the 18th of Feb. You enter a 30-minute squeeze also on the 18th of Feb. They're doing a great job of holding their ground, but they never get that momentum thrust. Little oomph up under that 30-minute squeeze. So one to keep an eye on. And then, yeah, I think aside from Apple, the next tech long would just be QQQ on that lower time frame buy trigger. Which, if you go check and form right now, QQQ coming off a little bit here. Do we have a 1 hour buy trigger yet? Right, buy trigger meaning a green candle and a green arrow. We got the opposite, red candle, red arrow. All right, what about the 30-minute QQQ? That's got a red candle, 15-minute. That's neutral, 5-minute. We haven't had a 5-minute buy signal since Feb 19th. So from 540 down to 510 QQQ. At no point throughout that pullback can they get the 5-minute back for the bulls. And guess what? We're not going back to 540 without a lot of buy signals. So little things to just keep an eye on here. 1 minute QQQ. We're really lowering the bar now. And they've had a couple 1 minute buy signals, haven't led to too much there. But all right, guys, that is pretty much the bigger picture of it. I think get through NVIDIA earnings tonight, get into the end of the week, and we could be looking at one of two things. A lot of that being driven by NVIDIA. It could be your QQQ with a good hold of that weekly 21 in a pretty bullish weekly squeeze, trying to get the initial rebound going. 15-minute charts are getting better signals, 30-minute hourly. None of that guarantees are going to break out here, but I do think that gives the bulls a lot of the edge back. They tank NVIDIA tomorrow. QQQ breaks that weekly 21. Could be a market poised for a QQQ down to about 485-ish. And I think I showed you this on Monday, but I'll show you again. Bigger picture view of the market. Where's the monthly here? There we go. If you speak the language of the squeeze, and it's a beautiful language, that 2024 rally gets kicked off by what? From a squeeze perspective, big monthly squeeze on the SPX. September of 22 up until November of 23. So for a good year and change, they're chopping it back and forth, building up all the energy, then the monthly squeeze fires. That gives you pretty much 12 months of overall really steady upside. S&P's from 4,200 into a high of, we'll call it 61 and change. Right, if we're looking at a 15-minute squeeze, 30-minute hourly, really any time frame, we got to look at it and accept the fact that probabilities-wise, that squeeze has already made the bigger part of the move. Right, the bigger and the easier part of that push. Squeeze takes you from your 21 EMA towards that 3 ATR target. And now, whether it be a big time frame like a monthly, a 5 minute, 2 minute, once your squeeze fires, takes you down there takes you for a good push towards that target. Now you got that growing probability in the background that eventually price has to meet back up with that monthly 21. Meaning, could be a situation where S&Ps really get ugly. We're pulling all the way back into about 5,300, and yeah, your daily 1 hour, 30-minute time frames, they're going to look like the end of the world. That pullback down to 53 would just be the normal ebbs and flows of the market on a much bigger time frame, right? It's a monthly squeeze that can give you about 2,000 SPX points, but it'll also be that monthly reversion to the mean that can take you down to the tune of about 1,000 SPX points. And I really think whether or not we're going to have a pullback of that size in the short term really rides on whether or not we can hold that weekly 21. Right, weekly squeeze setting up, they break the 21, come down towards the 50. Yeah, a little break of that weekly 50. It's a quick flush down towards that monthly 21. Which, if we get down there, I would think initially it's your first really good buying opportunity in quite a while off of the bigger time frame. But all right, y'all, any questions you got for me, any chart requests, I've got you covered. Get the popcorn ready for tonight, and then we'll see what's up there tomorrow. And if you are inclined to jump in here and buy a few things on the pop, make sure you're watching your lower time frames on the indexes. Keep in mind, any pop here on a lower time frame will likely take you back into resistance. We don't have 15-minute uptrends, 30-minute hourly, so any pop here until they can change that, a little bit more counter trend. So, for example, the Qs on, man, I can't wait to be back on toss next week. Like QQQ, a little pop here at the open, that'll take you back towards your 15-minute 21 EMA. In the context of a 15-minute downtrend, so little spot to keep an eye on. We get the 30-minute 21, the falling 30-minute 21. That's around 517-ish. So yeah, a little careful out there until we get through NVIDIA tonight. But all right, I'll get caught up in the chat, see what y'all got. Good morning, NG. My thoughts on Microsoft. I think short-term path here for Microsoft is going to be very QQQ dependent. And looking back here on the spreadsheet, compared to every other name in that basket, Tesla, TSM, Google, Amazon, Meta, all the above, right now Microsoft has the weakest score with a negative 91 out of 120. All right, pretty rough around the edges for now. But again, I think it'll be more of a QQQ thing. If next week sees a QQQ back into 535, 540, it won't guarantee Microsoft will catch a pop, but I think the odds would favor that. QQQ breaks down in a bigger fashion from here, then yeah, despite how much Microsoft's already pulled back, should keep on following that QQQ. I do believe you got a really big weekly squeeze setting up here. Comparing that weekly squeeze to the weekly squeeze of the QQQ, I think for now the QQQ looks a lot better. Bull trend, bull structure, and a score of 13 for QQQ, while Microsoft has a score of -4. So not the kind of thing I'd be looking for a trade in right now. Although, yeah, get the QQQ going, get the S&Ps going. They may be a void trying to break that weekly squeeze short, and you get a little pop going back towards the upside. I think a good over-under level here could be 425, 430. If they can get north of that weekly 21, back above the weekly 50, and they're doing that in a big weekly squeeze, they could try to eventually slingshot that back into a new high. Below that falling 21 EMA, might be buying time here before a bigger flush. But it'll all be up to this bad boy, I think. The almighty Q-tip. But thanks for being here, NG. And then good morning there, Art. Always good to see you. Yeah, Michael's watching that 135 level on NVIDIA. No, it'll definitely be an interesting one. Um, going and looking at a few of NVIDIA's peers, so to say. Right, here's your Broadcom, and Broadcom's just a sloppy -2. TSM has, what do we got here? -5. SMH has a -7. There are a few charts in the SMH, and maybe even the SMH itself, that do look a little vulnerable. Not a great daily chart by any stretch here for the SMH. 21 crossing under the 50, you're below your 200 SMA, momentum break. Kind of thing where NVIDIA's getting a decent gap down tomorrow. That might want to come down here, take out those lows. But the fun part is finding out together. All right, good morning, Terry. Good morning, everybody. All right, think we're good on the Q&A here. Check the essentials room. Good morning, Renew. MSTR. Yeah, so my take here on the short term on Bitcoin, crypto names, etc. Mainly the opinion mainly being driven by the Bitcoin futures. That there could be room for lower. So I'm watching 91 to 92,000 Bitcoin futures. Either BTC or MBT as a pretty important shelf of support here in the context of a very long daily squeeze. And these can be some of the trickier patterns when you get a big breakout, they're pumping it, pumping it, pumping it. Then you're taking a breather, a little back and forth, and you enter that new daily squeeze. After a push like that initially, you tend to look at that daily squeeze for an eventual breakout and continuation. All right, pull it back a bit, get the bull flag going, break it out, continuation higher. A little bit like the Apple 1 hour chart that I showed you earlier. As soon as Bitcoin enters that daily squeeze, momentum line shifts back below zero. So yeah, you got good structure, you got good, you're in a good trend, but you don't have that momentum kick needed to go on and break out. So they try to pop it once, that fails. They try taking out the highs, that fails. Pop it again, that fails. They never get that positive momentum shift. Now they're taking out support, and the daily squeeze actually breaks short. So my thinking would be in the short term here, if they can't quickly get it and keep it back above that 91, 92,000, get it and keep it back in the blue box there, could be room for lower off that daily squeeze. Right, minus 3 ATR level around 82,000 and change. You got the big 80K, you got the 200 SMA. So if that is the path forward, things going to pull back a bit more here. I'd imagine put some pressure on MSTR, Coinbase, all the above. So MSTR was down a healthy 11% yesterday, and now looking like a gap down into about 245-ish, 246-ish. And to be fair, you are coming up on decent support, or potential support, I should say, down there at that daily 200. But then the key would be, can we hold that 200 and then get buy triggers off that 200? We pull back into 230, and I've got a 15-minute sell signal, 30-minute, 1 hour, 2 hour, 4 hour. Okay, yeah, we might be at a potential support level, but from the inside out here, things are looking pretty rough. They hold that 200 SMA, then they go and get a 5-minute buy trigger, 15-minute. I don't think the best looking chart for a big trade, calling for week after week of strength. But off that 200 could be good for a pop back towards, 280, 300-ish. But a lot of that might be driven by those Bitcoin futures, which we got short. We got short there in my room yesterday, and then we got stopped out for break even. Might be thinking about jumping back on that donkey, though. But all right, y'all, I think we're all caught up on questions here. So as always, I appreciate you being here. Appreciate your time. Wish you all the best of luck today. And yeah, enjoy NVIDIA earnings. I will be in cash as far as NVIDIA goes. Get through that, wake up tomorrow, see how it all goes. And then, yeah, taking it a day at a time right now. But thank y'all again, as always, for everybody in my room. I'm going to go heat up the coffee, and I'll catch you over there in about